All right, let's have a seat, and we're going to get started here. I'll leave this out. Okay, does everybody have a folder of some sort? Because there are some people that missed last week that are here this week. I think I got you your folder. Does everybody have a folder? Okay. If you weren't here last week, do you have the copy? This is what we're going to go over today. Did you have a copy of the study guide, either printed out or something? Because I have an extra one I can give you if you need it. Okay, great. Oh, yes. There you go. No problem. All right, and then just to make sure everybody got a week 2 study guide at your table. I think everyone, okay, all right. Very good. Okay, again, put on your name tags, right? Because we got some newer people here and we want to know people's names. Okay, we're going to get started. This is how we're going to start today. I want you to go around your table and just first of all go around and just everybody say your name. Okay, so that everybody gets to say their name, listen, learn somebody's name. Then think about this. We might only have a chance for 2 or 3 people at your table to share, but think about maybe a personality trait or a characteristic that either you have or maybe your husband has, but we're not getting down on our husbands, right? But sometimes it's easier to think about somebody else than yourself. But what's the good side of that? How does that show up in positive ways in your life? And what's the bad side of that? Because we have characteristics that come out good or bad. Okay, so just to get you thinking, you know, what do you mean? Like maybe you're a practical joker, right? How does that work out? Maybe you're very orderly and methodical and you like order. What's the positive and negative of that? Maybe you're super friendly. Maybe you like to be on time. I don't know. Just think about something about you and how does that work out well in your life and how does that kind of come out in not so good ways in your life? Now, again, not everybody's going to get to share that, but good morning. All right. But go around. First of all, everybody say their name and then discuss that. All right, let's come back together. I gave you that question because this week, you already saw, but we're going to talk just briefly about Moses and a character quality that he has and how we watch it come out in bad ways, but then as he grows in the Lord, we see how it comes out in other ways. So gives us hope, right? We're all like that. Okay, I do want to take just a few minutes. Now we are all bright and intelligent women, and we all know how to read a map. But you know me, I'm very controlling. So we're just going to go over the map for just a minute, if you want to get your map out. And I just wanted to point out a few things. All right, so you have the Mediterranean at the top. At the bottom, you have the Red Sea with those 2 like arms or fingers that come out. Okay, I think I mentioned last time, but that left arm that comes out towards the Mediterranean, I have like 3 little lakes on your map there. I don't know exactly what it looked like at the time. It might have been 2 lakes or 1, but there's some water that goes up there, and that's going to become important in a couple weeks. We have the Nile River, right, on the left-hand side, winding its way through Egypt, coming out into the Mediterranean. And as rivers do, right, they spread out and have all these little tributaries as they form a delta. It's that delta as it goes in. And on the east side of that delta, I have the word Goshen, okay? That area is an area of Egypt, and it's called Goshen. And did you read about that maybe in this week's homework? I can't remember if it's this week or next week, but anyways, we're going to see. That's where when Jacob's family came down and settled in Egypt, they were told to settle in this area of Goshen. Okay, so that's where they are, and that's going to come up again in this week's homework. All right, then you have a couple other cities, and if a lot of the cities I'd put, Mara and Elim aren't really cities, but like oases in the desert with question marks. We're not really sure where they're at, but they're in that general area. Okay, so you have those 2 forks of the Red Sea going out. The one that's on the east side okay? So this whole area is wilderness area or desert area. And sometimes this far east side is called the far side of the desert. I'm not sure. My best guess is if you're in Egypt and you're looking across to the desert, that's the far side of the desert, okay? So when Moses is in Midian and he's watching his father-in-law's sheep and he takes them to the far side of the desert, this is the area that we're talking about. This on the other side of this right-hand thing. And at the bottom of that is Mount Sinai. Okay. So you might just want to keep that out because I am going to refer to that one other time as we go through. But just to get in our mind. Then we have Canaan, the promised land up on the east side of the Mediterranean. Right? That's where the promise is. That's where they're headed towards. That's where they want to get. All right. Any questions? It's pretty oh, yes, Lydia. No dumb questions.
So, in one of your questions, you said find Midian and see like how far of a travel that was.
Yeah.
Where did he start?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't actually have the answer for that because it kind of depended. This is a whole thing that we're not going to get into, but which pharaoh was it, and where was the capital city, and so there's two different thoughts. I didn't really put it on the map, but at least from the Goshen area, okay, but he lived in the palace, right? So I don't know what city actually the palace was. Now, I'm sure you could go online and find it out, but yeah. But from this general Egypt area, across the desert or the wilderness, that is like the Sinai wilderness. Very good question. See this the Nile River and all around it, this is like generally Egypt. Now, land, who controls what land goes back and forth. So this Sinai Peninsula was sometimes under the control of Egypt, sometimes not under the control of Egypt, and honestly, at this time, I don't know. I was just telling my husband this morning, I just love to be on top of everything, and there's so many things that I don't know. But this is what we generally think of as Egypt in this general area over here. This generally is the Sinai Peninsula, the wilderness or the desert, and then this is Midian over here, and then this is the promised land up here. Cool, awesome. Any other questions?
Why isn't our map colored?
Because we don't photocopy with color. And I just... Because I'm special. Now, if you just got a folder today, your map is actually two-sided because I pushed the wrong button on the photocopier. No special reason. Me and technology are not a thing. Okay. All right. Let's get out our lesson from this last week and open up our Bibles to Exodus. There's a lot of information that we covered. Remember last week I said there's no way we're going to be able to read everything, and we're probably not even going to cover everything that we did in the homework, okay? I have a few points to go over, and then if I can make it through in enough time, I'll see if you have any questions, or maybe there's something that you learned that you're just dying to share, and I want to give you opportunity to do that. All right, but I do have a couple points. Now, okay, I do apologize. The last few weeks have been very busy, and I probably would do this even if I wasn't busy, honestly, but we do have some typos in your homework, which does happen from time to time because I don't pay my proofreader enough, which is myself. Okay, so day 3, number 1, just so that you know, it says Exodus 4, 11 through 17. That should be Exodus 4, 1 through 17. Okay, that's not such a big deal. But then the next question, day 3, number 2, I asked you to look at chapter 2, verses 16 through 22, and it should be chapter 3. Okay, so if you're trying to answer that question and thinking, what is she talking about? What am I missing? I am missing the most obvious thing. You didn't miss anything. I just messed up. Okay. Yeah, we're getting there. Okay. Day 5. Okay, number 3, I said in verse 21. Oh, man, in verse 2. In verse 2. And we're going to talk about that as we go. That is one of the things I do want to hit, so we are going to get back to that. Yeah, no, I'm so sorry. I again apologize for that. And while I'm apologizing, you don't have to get it out, but in this coming week's homework, you're going to have a chart, and it's called the 10 plagues. And then I only leave 9 spots. Oh, my word. So just add another row onto that. It's all good. All right. Okay, so just keeping it real, everybody. If you go through and you find something like that I don't understand what she is talking about, chances are I have mistyped. Chances are in my mind it makes sense, but I did not communicate it well. So don't worry about it. We'll clear things up when we come back together. Okay, so like I said, I have like 5 things that I want to pull out from the homework. And then we're going to maybe ask some questions or anything. We're going to take a break. And then when we come back, we're going to do some sharing at the tables, as I warned you about in your homework to come. And again, no one has to say anything that they're uncomfortable with, okay? I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. Unless, of course, the Lord is, encouraging you to share something. All right. Let's see. So last week in class time, we left when Moses was a young child headed away from his family in to become the Pharaoh's daughter's son. And he lives there for about 40 years, but we didn't really know a lot about those first 40 years. We know he received an education, and he was schooled in the ways of Egypt and the knowledge of Egypt, but that's really about all that we know of those first 40 years in Egypt. But as we read, right, we catch up with him, and he's about 40 years old, and he goes out to see his people, right? And as he goes out to see his people, so we're going to be looking at like Exodus 2, right, on day 1. But he goes out to see his people. I had you read Exodus, and then I also had you read Acts chapter 7, because that kind of fills out a little more information, okay, gives us some things. Exodus 2 and Acts chapter 7. What happens when Moses goes out? Who does he meet? What happens? Yeah. Okay, he sees the slave masters beating the workers, which these are my people, right? He's a Hebrew. He goes out and he sees them beating one of his people. Okay, and how does he react to that? He killed him. He's upset. So he murders the Egyptian. All right. Why? Okay, in one case, this is like, well, duh. Okay, but why do you think he killed the Egyptian? Did you get in question, like maybe number 4 or 5? Yeah, question number 5. Are there words in the text that tell us why did he kill the Egyptian? He was beating him? Yes. And, okay, so he was beating his brothers. Mm-hmm. He was trying to be their deliverer. Yeah, right? I have, in my Bible, it says he was defending him. He was avenging them, right? He's seeing a grave injustice, and he wants to do something about it. So he's going to bring vengeance himself. He's going to be the one that brings righteousness and justice. He's Batman. Yeah. Defender of the truth, yes. Yeah, so he's coming and doing that, brings justice into his own hands. So the good thing about Moses is we see that when he sees injustice, he cares about it. Okay? He's a defender of the weak. But probably how he responded out of that was maybe not the best, right? Okay. Let's see. How does he expect, in question number 5, I asked you, when he comes out to deliver the people, right? What does he think the people are going to think about him? What does he think the Hebrews are going to say or look to him as? They're going to be impressed. We've been waiting for someone to come and be our deliverer. We've been praying for someone, and now we know that you're the one. Okay, so how did they respond? Not impressed, right? Not impressed. Who do you think you are, right? We don't need you, and you're going to make it even harder for us going around killing people. And so so he's coming in his own power to deliver them, and they reject him, and he's found out, and he has to run away across the far side of the desert, right, to Midian. He escapes. Now, when he arrives in Midian, what's one of the first things that happen in Midian? Who does he meet? What's going on? Right, he meets a bunch of women. And one of those names is maybe Zipporah or something like that. Yeah, Zipporah. I don't know how to say it. Mrs. Z. Mrs. Moses. Okay, so he meets some women right at a well. And what's happening to the women? Yeah. Right. They are being mistreated. Right. Right. Maybe they think, oh, we get first dibs, you need to go away. Or I don't know, or we're just going to harass them because we can, because we're stronger. I don't know. But they're being mistreated. Okay. So what does Moses do? He came to their rescue. Yeah, my Bible, I use the old NIV version, and it has a rescue all through here. He wants to rescue when he sees his fellow person being beaten in Egypt. When he sees these ladies, he's going to rescue them. He defends them, right? He sends them away. So how would you, in one word, how would you describe this character quality of Moses? Moses, a protector. Good, that's a good word. Other words. Compassionate. That's a good word. Okay, he notices injustices and sees things like that. Yeah. Assertive. Proactive. Assertive. Yeah. He is concerned about things like justice and fairness. He does something about it. He's active about it. He's a protector. He's a rescuer. It's just kind of who he is. Even before what we think of him doing, we just kind of see this may be kind of how God made him as well. And at first we see him responding, being proactive in a not godly way by taking somebody's life. But he's kind of, a little different here, right? He's being proactive, but in a good way, looking out for the weaker person, right? But without, he didn't try to kill all those other shepherds or anything like that. Okay, we're going to come back to this again at the end of the day. All right. When he's there in Midian, he gets married, right? He marries one of these women. We meet his father-in-law. He has a son. So he's doing all these things in Midian, right? Getting married, having kids. Meanwhile, back in Egypt, they're still suffering, right? 40 more years, and they're still suffering. And I asked you to look at the words that are used to describe their suffering, and then use the words that are used to describe God's reaction to the suffering of his people. Let's turn to Exodus 2. Exodus 2, verses 24 through 25. Now, this is day 1, number 9 on your homework. Just kind of read through those verses again. Look through what you wrote on your homework, number 9. When God heard his people crying out, how does God respond? What are the words used, those action words? He remembered his covenant, or remembered his promise. Okay, let's just, because we brought that out, does that word bother anybody? He remembered. Okay, now remembering is good, but the implication is, wait, does that mean he forgot? Did he forget his promise? Now, if you read the whole Bible, God is not a God who forgets, okay? So it doesn't mean that he forgot. A lot of times in the Old Testament when God remembers something or he uses the word that he remembers, it kind of means now's the time for action. Okay? He's knowing it all along, but we don't see him acting on it. But when it says God remembers, now is the time for action. That's kind of the thought there. And it's not that he forgot, right? It's not that he forgot. Okay, so God remembered. And what did he remember? He remembered his promise. I have a promise to these people. He remembered his promise. He remembered his covenant. Great. What else does he do? He hears. What else? He saw them. He sees them. He hears them. There's one more word, I think. He's concerned, right? He sees, he hears, he's concerned, and he remembers. Now he's going to act on it. Okay. Now, do you think, okay, we're moving in the area of speculation right now, but I think we're pretty safe. Do you think those Israelites, as they're suffering, as people are coming and throwing their babies in the Nile, as they're being forced to work, do you think they're saying, oh, I'm so happy, God, I just know God sees me. I know he hears me. Sometimes we're there, right, and we're like, we know God sees, we know God hears, but we can't tell. We can't see God seeing us. We can't see God hearing us. We can't see God remembering. But because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. Okay, this is who God is. He sees his people. He hears his people. He's concerned about his people. He remembers his people. It's who he is. Now, sometimes it doesn't feel like it where we're at, but you need to encourage yourself. I need to remember who God is. Even though I don't feel it, God is who he is, and he doesn't change. And I know he sees, and I know he hears. Okay? All right, so this is his first, we see his reaction here. Let's move to Exodus chapter 3. Chapter 3, verses 7 and 8. This is actually, you looked at these verses on day 2 of your homework in question number 6. And here we are at the burning bush. All right, we're just jumping ahead just a little bit because we see again God's reaction to the crying out of his people. And I said, what's the same about his reaction and what's different about his reaction? So what's the same? Yeah, he sees, he hears, or he knows, or he's concerned. Same kind of thing, yeah. Okay, what's new or different? I have come down. You're right. I have come down, right? I have seen you. I have heard you. I know. And you know what? You're stuck, Israelites. You're stuck. There is no possible way that you can be free from your captors on your own. You have a burden that's too great. You cannot break free. You can't be good enough to make it there. You can't uprise enough. You are stuck and incapable. And I have seen it. And I have come down. Right? Those are beautiful words. We can never make our way up to the Lord. Right? We can't free ourselves from our sin that entangles us. Right? But God knows and he sees and he has come down to us through Jesus, right? So when you read about through the Bible, right, man tries to make his way up, but God comes down to us. So this is just kind of sticks out to me as just beautiful, right? I see, I hear, I'm concerned, and I have come down. I have come down, let's see, this is verse 8. I have come down to do what? To rescue. Does the ESV or somebody else's translation do something different? I have come down to rescue. Deliver. Okay. Come down to rescue or to deliver. Now, he's going to rescue them from something and to something. Okay. What's he going to rescue them from? The Egyptians, their suffering, and rescue them to a land of milk and honey, or a good and spacious land, right? Remember last week we talked about, we're going to see this theme in Exodus, and you're going to get tired of me saying this, okay? But as we get towards the end of our study, I think it's going to become a little more practical for us. But he saves them or rescues them from something, and we always think of that. Rescue me from my burden, from my sin, from my slavery. But I'm going to save you to something as well, to a good land, to a blessing of a land filled with milk and honey. Rescue you from and rescue you to, okay? Here we see it. All right, so we're here at the burning bush. Let's just look at this a minute. Can someone read Exodus 3, verses 1 through 10 for us? Let's just get those verses fresh in our mind. Exodus 3, verses 1 through 10. All right, so Moses has got his sheep, his father-in-law's sheep. He's out in the wilderness. Where does it say he's at specifically? A mount. Mount Horeb. Okay. Does anybody have a different translation? Okay, Mount Horeb. Now, where's Mount Horeb? I didn't put Mount Horeb on our map. If you look at your map, though, I have Mount Sinai. Okay, Mount Sinai is down there at the bottom. Now, a lot of people, and we'll talk about this in a minute, think Mount Horeb and Mount Sinai are the same mountain. And we'll talk about that why in just a minute. Some people will think it was just kind of in this general area. Mount Horeb and Mount Sinai are two different mountains in this general area. We just don't have time to dig down into that. But let's just say, just so that you know on your map, I just have Mount Sinai. I think that's probably Mount Horeb as well. But just down in this general area is where he's at. And that's why I don't have Mount Horeb on the map, because I think it's the same thing. That's the confusing thing about the Bible is it happens in America too. You have all these different people, and like maybe we call someplace, I don't know, one name, and then people from another state call it a different name or something like that. And in the Bible, they have all these different names for the same place. And I just feel like if it was just all use the same words, it would be so much easier for me. But, okay. All right, so he's at Mount Horeb, and describe from verse 2, what does Moses see? Okay, a bush that's burning. Okay, well, maybe seeing maybe lightning comes down and a dry bush catches on fire. Maybe that's not too unusual. But what's unusual about this bush that is burning? It's on fire, but it's not burning up, right? It's not being consumed, okay? Yeah, so that's kind of interesting, what's going on over there. And what else is in verse 2? What else is interesting about this bush? There's somebody in the middle of it. Must be kind of a big bush, right? There's somebody in the middle of it. And as Sandy said, it's called the angel of the Lord. The angel of the Lord is appearing in the middle of this bush. Okay, so as I'm reading through this, I would think, oh, there's an angel there. There's an angel there. But then as you keep reading, we get a little more description of this angel. And so I asked you to look through verses 4 through 6. What do we learn about this angel in verses 4 through 6? Okay. Someone said the angel was God. Can someone tell me from those verses, why did she say the angel was God? Exactly. Doesn't get much clearer than that, right? I am God, right? As he's speaking, he says, God called to him from within the bush. So this angel is talking to him, right? And as Moses, he said, God called, right? Right. So as if that wasn't weird enough, can you imagine? Like you're seeing this thing and then it starts, this being in there starts calling out your name. I am not very brave. I would probably honestly turn and run. But yeah, it's terrifying to me. Okay, calls his name. And when this entity speaks, it says, God called, God said, and as Janet said, he says, I am God. I am the God, right? I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Joseph. I am that God who made the promise, right? I promised Abraham some things, and it's been a long time, right? I'm also that God from Genesis 15 that said that my people are going to be for 400 years in a land that's not their own in service. And I am also that God who said, but at the end of that time, I will bring them out. I am the God of your fathers. So as this angel is speaking, we learn this angel of the Lord is not really an angel, right? Okay, so I got this word for us, and maybe you know this word, but, maybe you don't. But I spelled it out because if I see something, I can remember it. So we have this word, theophany. Theophany. Well, who cares about big words, right? But this is like the appearing of God. God is spirit, right? And how do we see things through our senses? I see them, I hear them, I touch them, I smell them. But I can't do that to God who is spirit. So he reveals himself in some ways that we can understand. And in Exodus, we have a lot of these. This is a theophany, an appearing of the Lord in a way that can be observed visibly by the people. Okay? So here you have a theophany, the angel of the Lord in the fire. Now, the Lord is not fire, okay, but it's just a way that he's appearing so that we can understand him a little bit, see him, notice him, okay, because he's spirit. Now, second word, Christophany. So if this is the appearing of God, this is the appearing of Jesus. Sometimes in the Old Testament, we don't just have a triune God expressing himself. We have specifically the second person of the Trinity displaying himself, taking on a form that we can see. And that's called a Christophany. Now here, some people will say, whenever you see the term the angel of the Lord, but it doesn't appear to be an angel, perhaps that is actually the second person of the Trinity. Some people will say, well, maybe it's just the Lord in his triune self. We're not going to bicker about that, but we are going to get to some Christophanies in Exodus as well. Okay, but God appears in a way that they can see, all right? A theophany. We already had this in Genesis 15. When you remember, God came and he cut that covenant with Abraham, and only the Lord walked through the pieces of those animals, right? And it was like a smoking fire pot and a burning torch. God is not a smoking fire pot, and he's not a burning torch, but it's a theophany. It's the way he appeared so that Abraham could see, oh, God himself is walking through and making the covenant, okay? Theophany. So, if you're reading or you're listening to a sermon and someone says, oh, here we have the theophany of blah, 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 well, you know what they're talking about, okay? All right. I lost my place. But God appears. He showed himself. He comes to Moses. He says, I have come down, and I'm appearing to you in the bush, and I have some things to say. This is where he says, I have come down to rescue. And then he goes on and says, let's see. Oh, in verse 10, so now go, I'm sending you. I have come down to rescue. But Moses, I'm sending you. I'm going to do it through you. Okay? And then they had this conversation back and forth where Moses is like, whoa, now just hold on a minute. Your rescue's all good and all that. And we'll talk about that later. Okay, we're going to skip ahead for a moment. Okay, let's turn to Exodus chapter 4, verse 22. Where am I at? Okay, so we've already had that conversation at the burning bush Moses is like, okay, I'm going to go back. He gets his family ready. He goes back. God gives him a lot of information, like this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And verse 22, God is telling Moses kind of what to say to Pharaoh, but what does God call Israel in verse 22? My firstborn son. Okay. Why do you think God calls it? He's not saying these are my sons, this individually is my son, and this individually is my son, but he's calling Israel, this people, is my firstborn son. Why do you think he's calling Israel his firstborn son? They're his people. These are mine. These are mine, right? Out of all of the nations, I've looked down on one man and his paganism, pulled him out to make a people. And they happen to be slaves right now, and they don't look like very much. But to me, they are my firstborn son, right? They are my heir. That's who gets my inheritance. The firstborn son has a lot of rights and privileges. The firstborn son also has a lot of responsibilities. So you can read about Israel as you go through the Old Testament as that firstborn son of God, and how do they do? Do they live in the rights and privileges that they've been given? Do they live up to their responsibilities? Oh, I don't know, but God says that they are my firstborn son. I have relationship with them. They're different. I've chosen to put my love on them. Okay, we're going to come back to that in just a minute. Yes. Yes. Right. This nation is my firstborn son, but there's going to be more. I know we're ladies, but son gets the inheritance back then, and we get the inheritance too. So it's okay to be called a son because we get the inheritance, okay? But I have a firstborn son, but I'm going to have more. It implies more, and I love that. Yeah. Okay. Moses goes back. Then let's move on to chapter 5. This is my last point that I want to cover. Moses goes back. He's told what to expect, not in chapter 5, in a different chapter. And he's said, go back, assemble the elders, assemble all the elders, tell them that the Lord has come to you. They will listen to you. Then you go to Pharaoh. You ask to leave. He won't let you leave. Then I will strike the Egyptians, and then Pharaoh will let you go, and you're going to take some loot with you on the way out. Okay, God has laid out the plan. And Moses follows. Once he's on board, he's on board, and he follows, and he does this, and he obeys. When he tells the people, when he assembles the elders and tells the people, God has come down. He has seen us. He's heard us. He's going to rescue. How do they respond? Do you remember? They fall down in worship. We've been praying for 400 years, and now it's going to happen. And they believe, and they fall down in worship. All right, now let's go to chapter 5, verse 2, not verse 21 or whatever I wrote down. Chapter 5, verse 2. Okay, Moses comes to Pharaoh. Moses and Aaron come to Pharaoh, say, let my people go. And in chapter 5, verse 2, how does Pharaoh respond? Yeah. I'm Pharaoh. I'm deity myself. And I know the God of the Nile, and I know the God of the frogs, and I know the God of the sun, and I am deity myself. But this Yahweh that you're talking about, I don't know who he is. He's nothing. He's nothing. That's one of his responses. Then how does he respond? I think I asked, how does he, so he says, I don't know who God is. And then how does he respond towards the people? Makes them work harder. Not only, he makes their work not just hard, but their work impossible. right? Not only do you have to make the same amount of bricks, but you have to go get the straw and make the same amount of bricks, right? He gives them an impossible task, something they can never do, and then punish it, So Moses is like, what? Like, you said we were going to ask him, and he wasn't going to let us go, but then you were going to bring hardship on him. And that hasn't happened. Actually, hardship has come on us, right? And chapter 5, I was talking with Susie the other day, like it just leaves us sad. It's a hard chapter to end on. And Moses ends, well, how does Moses respond? Let's do it that way. In verse 22, chapter 5, verse 22 and 23, Moses sees yet again another injustice. You are giving these people an impossible task. They cannot possibly do it. Okay, how does he respond? Questioning, yep. A couple times, why? Why have you done this? Mm-hmm. Okay. Why is this happening? In verse 22, it says that Moses returned to the Lord and said. When Moses first sees an injustice, he's going to do it on his own power. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to go out and kill that man, right? Second time Moses sees an injustice, I'm going to act on it. Third time Moses sees an injustice, I better talk to the Lord about this, right? Same character quality, but we can kind of watch him growing in that and responding better and better all the time. This is wrong, and I don't understand because I'm going to ask why. He asks why. But I know where to go, and it's not my own strength. I'm going to go to the Lord. Why? Okay. We're going to end there, but after the break, we're going to come back and kind of release that tension a little bit of this, why, this cry of lament of Moses. All right. I skipped over a bunch. So is there something that you just learned and you're just busting to share, or a question or a comment? Yeah. All right. That's a very good question. Is Moses lying? Because he's saying, we just want to go out for 3 days, and we're going to worship for 3 days. But we know that God's going to bring them out. So is he lying? That's good. Does anybody thought about that? Okay, you're shaking your head no. Do you have a... Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, and that's a thought. Like, we just want to go out for 3 days, and you won't even let us do that. But God says eventually you are going to be pushed all the way out, but we're going to start by asking for 3 days. That's one way to answer that question. There's a couple other ways, but yeah. Yes, Alana. Oh, okay, yeah, we did skip over that. All right. Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to slip past that, but all right. Because I want to give us a break, so I'm just going to kind of quickly. So Israel is my firstborn son. God calls Israel my firstborn son. Right after that, we have this thing about God wanting to kill Moses and Zipporah and all that. Okay, so back in the days of Abraham, right, to show that you belonged to the people of God, the men would become circumcised. It was a sign of the Abrahamic covenant. We belong to the Lord. All right. Moses marries a Midianite. That's not their practice. And so his oldest, or any of his boys, does it just say his first or his boys? Okay. His first is not circumcised. That probably would have been a very odd thing, a brutal thing, and not what his wife would have wanted to do to their firstborn son. Okay. Now God's like, now listen, you're coming back to the people, and I am holy, right? And my promise stands, but I have some requirements of holiness, and you have not followed those, and you need to do it. And it says he wants to kill Moses, doesn't he? I mean, I think we just need to realize, like, God is serious about his holiness. I think that's something to take, that God is very serious about his holiness. And if you're going to come back and do this, you need to be outwardly obedient in holiness to come and do this. Then Zipporah comes, and she's the one that actually circumcises the boy, the man, I don't know how old he is. And she seems to be upset about it. Kind of like, fine, I'll do this. You're my bridegroom of blood. Like, I don't know why this has to be so bloody. I don't know why I married, kind of like she's frustrated. You're dying, and my son, she's frustrated, and she does it. Why does she do it, not Moses? Maybe Moses is too sick. I don't know, but I think the point is that Israel's my firstborn son, and my love is put on them. You still need to be obedient, right? And your firstborn son then needs to be, carry that outward sign of my covenant people. Does anybody have anything to add to that or another thought?
I studied this
Yeah.
last year, and so I wrote Moses' personal life had to be in order before
Yeah.
the spiritual life of the Hebrews.
Yeah.
He neglected to miss that sacred right, and that symbolized that covenant.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. Whew. So he must have, if God's calling him to be responsible to that. Well, I don't know, because he lived in his mother's home for a long time, his parents' home. He very well could have been he was probably circumcised. I'm sure that he was circumcised. When did that happen? I would guess when he was young and his mother was caring for him. I don't know that 100% for sure. Yes, right, right. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, he absolutely knows that he is Hebrew and not Egyptian. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Oh my gosh, thank you. Perfect. Perfect. This is our answer. He was not put into the basket until he was 3 months old. Right. You circumcised on the 8th day, so he definitely would have been circumcised. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Right, right. Right, right. And maybe Moses didn't, like he's the leader of the family and he knows what to do, but I'm going to let my wife talk me out of it. I mean, there's just, I don't know. There's all kinds of things we could come down strongly on. I'm hesitant to come down too strongly because I kind of think the point is, like what you said, God's holiness is serious and there's things that he requires. And he says, if you're going to come and lead my people, you need to get your house in order. Israel's my firstborn son, and you have a firstborn son, and your firstborn son needs to carry the sign of my people. Something along those lines. Yeah. Pretty vague, but any other? These are good questions. I tried to avoid that, but any other questions? Or comments or okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Okay, and then we're going to come back and look at our chart that you made. All right, let's come back to our seats. And you can get out your chart that I asked you to work on. Okay, I am a fan of a chart. In this week's homework, you have 2 more charts, and then I think we'll be charted out for the rest of the time. Okay, so. As Moses is in Midian, caring for his father-in-law's sheep, not really looking for, what's my next big thing in life, right? He's just going through his life. And the Lord comes to him, that angel of the Lord comes to him in the burning bush and reveals himself and says, I have come down and I'm sending you. Now go. And then Moses has some thoughts on that. Okay. Let's see. Last week we talked about how Moses, the real person Moses, and the real freedom and salvation that he brought and how great that is. Also a pointer to Jesus, right, as the one who comes. So Moses is a pointer to Jesus. He's not really a pointer to me. And so my life is not to, provide salvation for everyone. But yet we can still learn from Moses, right? Moses had to be obedient to what God was asking him to do. And we have to do the same thing, right? We need to be obedient to what the Lord is asking us to do. We talked about one of those steps of Moses' obedience was circumcising his firstborn son, right? But even just the going. And we see the great patience of the Lord in talking Moses through the going. Moses has some objections and some fears. And I think sometimes when we know what the Lord is asking us to do, we have objections. I have objections. I have a lot of fears, right? But the same God that was patient and working and walking Moses through those things, right? It's the same God. He's patient with us. He walks us through those things to lead us into obedience. I don't know why. Why wouldn't we? Obeying the Lord is like a joyful thing, and it's a great thing. I don't know why we resist it so much, but we do. All right. So I had you write down what was Moses' objection and what was God's response. So I'm just going to go through those objections real quick. Objection number 1, Moses says, who am I? Who am I? Right? And that sounds kind of humble. Like, this is a big thing. I'm just a nobody. I'm 80 years old, for goodness sakes, at this point, right? You want me to walk all the way back? Like, okay, but who am I? Also, I wonder if he's thinking, who am I? Like, I tried that. I've been there, done that, and I failed. Who am I to go back and do that? Okay, then he says, I don't know your name. They're going to ask me questions. I'm not going to have the answers to all your questions. What do we even call you? What's your name? Objection number 3, they will not believe me. I can go to them, but they rejected me once already. They are not going to believe me when I come back. All right, 4th objection is, I don't have the skills. I can't speak, right? I can't speak. Objection number 5, my favorite, please send someone else. Please. I think I've said those exact words before. Please let someone else do this. Okay, these are his objections. So at your table, maybe talk a little bit. Don't spend a lot of time, but what are some of his responses? Well, before we do that, at your table, I asked you to think about what in your life is God asking you to do. No, I don't mean great big things, although there could be some great big thing, right? Maybe you have a coworker who just grates on your every last nerve, and the Lord says, we know this, love that person. And I don't. But I know if I'm going to obey the Lord, I need to love that person. I'm talking about these daily grind kinds of things, right? I am a quick-tempered person, and I had 4 small children. Oof. And the Lord calls me to be patient, and I can't do that on my own. But I need the fruit of this, but I'm supposed to be patient. I'm supposed to grow in obedience to be patient to those 4 small kids, right? The daily life kinds of things. So I asked you to think about who's in your family, who's at work, what do you do? Maybe there is some big thing that the Lord is calling you to, but oftentimes it's those in that daily life that we live. What's a step of obedience? So if you're feeling comfortable, you can share. I feel like I'm not obeying the Lord in this, and I was really convicted, like I need to step out in obedience in this way. Do you have objections like Moses's? Do you relate to any of his objections? Or do you have your own? And which one of God's responses is most helpful for you in your situation? Okay? So, discuss that at your tables for a little bit. All right, we are going to come back together. There's always more that we could talk about, but I do want to make sure we have time to pray at the end of the day. So I just want to know, is there someone that has a testimony that they want to share with a large group, or maybe they didn't get to share in their small group or something, a call of obedience that you know the Lord's calling you into, your hesitation, and then how God can encourage you to follow through? Does anybody have something quick? Yes, yeah. So how do we, that's a big topic for how do we know what God's will is, and, but sometimes knowing the truth, right, we don't think clearly, and so like that's true, like, we are to care for one another, but if we think we're the only ones that can care for that person, then we are elevating ourselves a little bit, and maybe we just need to, but it depends on the situation. Yeah. But I would say the best place to start is always in the Word. What is God specifically saying in the Word? And then how does he confirm that? Sometimes he confirms that with a lot of different things along the way as well. All right. We left Moses in a bad place. Why? Why is this happening? Why is this happening at the end of chapter 5? I am going to read the beginning of chapter 6, okay? This is the Lord coming to answer Moses in his lament. I have obeyed you. I have followed you. Why is it so hard? Okay? And just think, is God answering his question? Why? Okay, I'm going to read chapter 6, verses 1 through 12. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Now you will see what I will do to the Pharaoh. Because of my mighty hand, he will let them go. Because of my mighty hand, he will drive them out of this country." God also said to Moses, "I am the Lord. I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob as God Almighty. But by my name, the Lord, I did not make myself known to them. I established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, where they lived as aliens. Moreover, I have heard the groaning of the Israelites, whom the Egyptians are enslaving, and I have remembered my covenant. Therefore, say to the Israelites, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the yoke of the Egyptians. I will free you from being slaves to them, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with mighty acts of judgment. I will take you as my own people, and I will be your God. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God who brought you out from under the yoke of the Egyptians, and I will bring you to the land I swore with my uplifted hand to give to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. I will give it to you as a possession. I am the Lord." Moses reported this to the Israelites, but they did not listen to him because of their discouragement and their cruel bondage. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go tell Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, to let the Israelites go out of his country." But Moses said to the Lord, "If the Israelites won't even listen to me, why will Pharaoh listen to me, since I speak with faltering lips?" Okay, so he's still kind of struggling. Okay, but the Lord comes to him, and he's like saying, "Lord, why? Why is it so hard? Why did you make our work harder?" Does God answer their question when he responds to Moses? The why. I don't really think he does. I don't think he says, "Oh, well, Moses, let me tell you, because A, B, C, this is why." I don't really think he does. You have at your table, I gave you some pages to hand around. Originally, I had intended that we would work a little bit at this at our table, but I do want us to have time to pray, so we're not going to do this at our table, but we are just kind of walk through this a little bit together. Exodus 6, 1 through 12. I said, Moses obeyed the Lord, but Pharaoh did not let the people go. Instead, he made their labor requirements impossible. Moses responded by going to the Lord asking why. Okay, and then we read that. God does not respond with, "Oh, this is why I'm doing this." But let's look at verses 2 through 5. Okay, he does say, "Moses, I need you to remember some things." What does he ask Moses to remember in verses 2 through 5? Okay, I am the God of the covenant, right? Remember the promise, and that I keep my promise. Yes, absolutely. That's right, absolutely. It says, I am the Lord, right? Remember, I am the uncreated one, right? When he says this, says, I am who I am the uncreated one. I always have been. I'm over everything. Remember, I am the Lord. I can't answer, I'm not asking you, I'm not telling you why, but I'm saying, remember who I am. I am the Lord. I am the Lord who made a promise. I am the Lord who keeps his promise. Right? I am the Lord. So just remember, sometimes we ask why, and I don't think that's wrong. He's not rebuked for asking why. Okay? But God says, I'm not going to give you the why, but I want you to know the who. Who am I? Put your eyes back on me. Right? Sometimes we're going to find ourselves in a situation, and it's like, I don't know what's going on, and I don't know why this is happening, and I've been trying to find the Lord, and why does my life feel like it's falling apart? Okay, and God says, no, look at me. Look at me. Remember who I am. Remember who I am. Okay. Question number 2. Moses, first of all, Moses, remember who I am. And now that you remember who I am, I'm going to have you tell the Israelites some things. Okay? And I just, through here, again, he repeats that. I am the Lord. I am the Lord. I am the Lord. When you don't know what's going on, know what you do know. And what you do know is I am the Lord, and implying you are my firstborn son. Right? I am the Lord, and you are my firstborn son. And then he has these I wills, 7 I will statements. So, someone shout out, what is the first I will statement? I will be your God. Okay, what verse is that? I will bring you out. Okay, I will free you. Okay, what's about in verse 6? What'd you say? I'm sorry. Sandy. Okay. Oh, we're going to have a lot of different versions, so that's going to be interesting here. Okay. I will bring you out, or, I will bring you out is my first one. Out from the yoke. I'll bring you out from the yoke of Egyptians. And then the second part of your verse 6, Sandy says, I will deliver. Okay. I will deliver, or I will free you. Either, I will free you. I will deliver you from being slaves. And the next one is, I will redeem you. Right? So I will bring you out. I will free you. I will redeem you. These 3 statements all kind of have the same thoughts. Those are the first 3. I will redeem you with mighty acts of judgment. Okay, verse 7 then. What's God going to do? I will what? Take you to be my people. I will take you to be my people. Then I will be your God. That's the next one. I will take you to be my people, and I will be your God. Down in verse 8, I will bring you to the land. God says, I will bring you to the land. That's our number 6. And the last one is, I will give it to you as a possession. I'm not just going to take you to the land. I'm going to give it to you, right? These 7 statements of what God is going to do. I will, I will, I will. So Moses is asking, why? Why is this happening? And God's responding, remember who I am. I am the Lord. I am the promise maker. I am the promise keeper. And I will, I will, I will. Be assured that future is going to come. All right. What is God's part in their rescue? Who can summarize? What's God's part in their rescue? Does he have a tiny part, a big part? Yeah. Everything, Amy says. Yeah, everything, right? He does everything. He's got the plan. He's initiating it. He's going to accomplish it, okay? It's all him. Okay, so what's the Israelites' part? Okay, what? Trust, right? I think it's interesting, he says, then you will know. So their part is just to observe and know. This is who God is. Receive who he is. Believe who he is. That's what you do. Sit back and, now I know. Right? He's not doing this because they're good enough, because they're worthy enough, because they deserve it. They don't really have any part in it. God has just decided, these are my people. This is my firstborn son. And I'm going to bring him out. Right? And they're just going to watch. And then they're going to know. Okay. Yes. It's the beautiful picture of salvation, right? Moses points us to Jesus. Jesus does it all. Jesus has come down. Moses says, I've come down. Jesus comes down. Jesus takes our sin on the cross. He does it. He pays for it. Not because we deserve it, but because this is my child who I love, and I'm going to pay for it, right? And we believe it. That's what we do, right? I don't earn it. We believe it. It's a beautiful picture of salvation. All right. I asked, well, we'll just say, in those first three ones, okay, again, this is what I'm saving you from. I'm saving you from slavery, from the yoke of the Egyptians, right? I'm saving you from these things. Then in Numbers 4, 5, 6, and 7, what is he saving you to? What is he saving us to? He says, you are going to be my people, and I am going to be your God. I'm saving you to relationship, right? I'm saving you to communion with me, all right? Numbers 6 and 7, I'm going to bring you to that land, and I'm going to give you possession. Now, there is a promise to Abraham and Abraham's family regarding this land, and it was called the land of blessing, right? I'm going to save you to blessing. I'm going to save you to rest. It's supposed to be, it doesn't work out, but it's supposed to be their land of rest. I'm going to save you to blessing. I'm going to save you to rest. I'm going to save you to relationship, right? I'm taking you out of this. I'm bringing you to this. Beautiful words here. Beautiful words. All right. Verses 6, 7, and 8. These are going to be our memory verses. Okay? These might be a little weird. So in your study guide for the next week, I say memorize these verses. Okay? These may seem like a little bit of odd verses to memorize, but like Ashley said, this is a beautiful picture of salvation. Right? The God of the Old Testament is the God of the New Testament, and he saves his people, and he does it all, right? And we just watch and believe, right? And he comes to us. We have communion with him, relationship with him. We are blessed by him, right? This is what we are saved from and what we are saved to. It's the theme of Exodus. All right. Verse 9, Moses reported these words to the Israelites, these beautiful words of hope. He didn't answer his why questions, but God gives him these beautiful words of hope of what he is going to do. And the Israelites did not listen. They did not hear these beautiful words because of their discouragement and their cruel bondage. Okay. Earlier, Moses was very discouraged. And what did he do? He went to the Lord with his lament and his discouragement. But then he received the words of hope from the Lord. The Israelites are discouraged, and Moses delivers those words of hope, but they do not receive them. Their discouragement makes them bad hearers. They don't hear. It's a warning. When you are feeling discouraged is not the problem. What do you do with your discouragement? Are you going to the Lord? Lord, tell me, help me, remind me who you are and what you've promised? Or do you let your discouragement wear you down? right? Things will never be better. It is always this way. God can't work in this situation, right? Don't let your discouragement plug your ears, okay? Don't be like the Israelites. This is another way to be like Moses. Go to him with your discouragement and let the Lord minister to you through his word, reminding you who he is, what he's going to do, what he saved us from, what he saved us to, the hope of those words, right? And don't let discouragement get in the way of hearing the word of the Lord. All right, that takes us up through Exodus chapter 6. The rest of 6 is like the genealogy, which I actually like genealogies, but we're going to skip over it, and we're going to start, I think, the end of chapter 6 and into chapter 7 next week. Any questions or comments, thoughts? Okay. Heads up, in a few weeks, I'm going to ask you to think about what are you learning in Exodus? What is God saying to you through the words in Exodus? So if there's something in this lesson, oh, this is really hitting me where I'm at, you should write it down so that it's easy to find, right? What is God saying? Okay. Also, I did ask you, which again, we just ran out of time, what did we learn about God this week? Does anybody have a quick answer to shout out? What did you learn about who God is this week? Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yep. God keeps his promise, but we wish he would do it a different way sometimes. Yeah. Just because, yeah, good. Yes, it's not necessarily something new. Usually we don't learn something new, but we're reminded of those things that we need to hang on to. Yeah. Anybody else? He's there no matter what. Absolutely. Yeah, sometimes he doesn't work very fast. We like it fast, right? These people have been waiting for 400 years, right? And then 40 more years. And all that. Okay. Yeah. Sarah. Yes. Wow. Huge theme in the Bible, right? Suffering in the Lord leads to glory in the Lord. Yeah. And we fight it, but we should kind of not fight it. Okay. The Lord, Jesus is our huge example in all of that. Yeah. Yes.
No obstacle is too big, no matter what we might think is too big for him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Things that discourage us or seem like too big of an obstacle. Yeah. The Lord says, I am the Lord. I am eternal. All that. Okay. Yeah, awesome. Other things? Anything else? I had the Lord is patient. Just his patience with Moses was really impressed on me. Yes. I need a lot of patience. I need someone to be patient with me. His patience, that he came down to rescue, that he empowers us for the task at hand. I really like that too. And Moses was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And God says, I'll be with you. I'll empower you. That God is not the slave driver. Oh, we didn't talk about this. God is not the slave driver, okay? Pharaoh, right, in your homework, Pharaoh wanted them to work. These people are valuable to me because of what they can do for me, and they need to perform, and they need to perform more and more and more and more and more. And he's a slave driver, and he says, you people are valuable because of what you do. And God says, you are my firstborn son. You are valuable because I love you, right? And God is our Father who loves us. He's not a slave driver. And sometimes we kind of forget about that. And he doesn't say, you're my firstborn son because you work and work and work and do and do and do. Now, we are to grow in obedience and all of that, but we can never earn that status on our own. He comes down to save us out and give us that status. That is who the Lord is. Thankfully. All right. So take some time and just pray together if you have prayer requests for the week. Also, I'm not trying to pick on Jan, but she was vulnerable in sharing that. So let's pray for her as she cares for her mother. other things. Also, if there's something that you were reminded about the Lord, you can pray prayers of thanksgiving and praise as well, right? Our requests, but also our prayers of thanksgiving and praise. All right? And then whenever you are finished at your table, feel free to go. And if you are finished at your table, but other people are still praying, you can stay and talk, but just try to talk quietly, okay?